And welcome to the 2020 Glunz Tasting Hall. We are very excited today to be hosted by a fantastic family winery that has history that goes way back to the Sistine Chapel and even further. So it is very exciting and cool to present today Fattoria Nittardi on Castellina Chianti. And let's go ahead and start off by going to one of my favorite things, of course, which I'm sure everybody is always looking forward to, their daily trip around the globe. So we're going to start right here with the beautiful earth there. And everybody see that all right? I hope. All right, so we're starting right here in beautiful Chicago. It's a nice sunny day, first full week of fall. And you can definitely see a couple of the clouds back there. Just kidding, that's an old picture. Really bad Google Earth humor. Does that even exist? I don't know. But today we are going over the Atlantic and landing here in Italy. Within Italy, we are in the central western side of Italy, sneaking into the region of Tuscany. Within Tuscany's huge breadth of different areas, we are going to be sneaking specifically in to a nice little shot of, this is a general shot of Chianti Classico, and it kind of just shows you a little bit of the view of the mountains and hills and what that all looks like. And then where Castellina and Chianti is in association to Chianti Classico. And then we'll sneak right in to this beautiful little property nestled in the woods on the mountain foothills here to Nittardi. And with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing and welcome everyone, and especially welcome our host today, Leon Femfert. Leon, it is so fantastic to have you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Joe, for the nice introduction. Very excited to do this tasting today at the end of the harvest. So we are all a little bit worked, a little bit tired, I have to say. We have been picking grapes for months, roughly. And its harvest has many up points and a lot of emotions and many good things, but it's also very tiring. So this is our last week of picking. And we had some rainy weather the last week, so which made things a little bit more tricky. But we're very happy that everything seems going to good end. The quality in general is very good this year. We are very happy with the quality, as we had a dry growing season and it was not too hot. Besides August, it was not too hot.
And we have heard some very good things about the 2020 harvest in Italy, which is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. I can only confirm that. Quantity-wise, quantity is a little smaller this year because of different reasons. The quantities are a little on the lower side, but quality is for sure very good. So I mean, it's early to make a complete verdict, but I would say comparable in style to 2016 or 2010. So on the richer side, for sure, it will be some rather powerful and big wines, but still good acidities, so good freshness and good drinkability.
Great, which is always key.
Yeah, totally. So today, my idea was to make a short introduction to the winery. Joe, you said already a little bit where we are, Chianti Classico. We also have 2 wines from Maremma. We're going to try today 2 reds from Maremma, more super Tuscan style, and then 3 wines from Chianti Classico. And so maybe I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are, and then we're going to try the wines and talk a bit about the styles. Please ask as many questions as possible to make it a little interactive. This would be really great for me. But first, I wanted to connect with Roberto. Roberto is our cellar master at Nittardi, and he is in the cellar. I am in the main house right now, and Roberto is in the cellar. So
you are where it's nice and warm and comfortable, and Roberto. is freezing.
No, it's still warm, but it's not. It's like maybe. I mean, I don't know how many Fahrenheit it is, but it's still reasonable.
See.
Anyway, so the idea is if Roberto's connection is okay, which is unfortunately because in the cellar, it's a cellar, it's not an office, so Wi-Fi is not great there. But if Roberto's connection is okay, we will start with a little bit information of what's going on in the cellar right now, which of course is the super most exciting moment of the year. So it's a good moment to see the real life besides, let's say, nice pictures which you might see in Wine Spectator, but the real life of a cellar rat. And then I'm going to talk later a little bit. So I would pass the word to Roberto.
Bene. Roberto, how are you, sir?
Hi, fine, thanks. And you? Are you okay?
Very good. Happy to have you showing us through the cellar.
Yes, can you hear me? The connection is okay now?
Sì, bene.
Okay, so now I will show you what we are doing now. And we are working on grapes. That vintage is very, very good. We have good acidity and right alcohol content. Now I would like to show you something that we do now. So I have two collaborators. One of them is Federico, Lorenzo. And now he's doing the typical operation during winemaking, and it's pump over. Hi Lorenzo, how are you?
Hi, fine.
What are you doing now?
I'm doing the pump over, and now from the top I can smell already the typical Sangiovese flavor.
That's Sangiovese, yeah. Can you explain some notes about the flavor of Sangiovese?
Yeah, the typical notes are of red fruits, and for example strawberry, raspberry, and cherry. And those are fresh fruit, and with this, thanks to the pump over, I can
Extract the aroma and color.
The aroma, the color, and the polyphenols.
And polyphenols, very important polyphenols, right? That's I change camera now. Okay, hi. This is typical operation, pump over. But another operation that we do, it's punch down. So it means we have to press by hand and push the grapes into the liquid. Okay, and now I will show you. This year we have news. It's an Amphora wine here, and I will show you what we are doing now. She's Chiara. Hi Chiara.
Hi.
What are you doing now?
I'm punching down the wine.
Okay, what?
This is the same variety as
It's the same Sangiovese that Lorenzo is working on.
yes,
Yeah?
but the taste is very different because
And why is the tasting very different?
because in the amphoras compared to the wine spicier flavor and taste of chocolate and white pepper.
Okay. So we have, thank you, Chiara. Bye-bye. Hi guys, are you there?
Sì.
Are you there?
Sì.
Okay, so that's what we are doing now. There is other stuff that we do, but at the moment we are working on grapes in that way. I don't know if you have some question.
So what percentage of the fruit is in? You're in your last week, yes?
The percent of?
the percent or the amount of the harvest that is in? How much more grapes are you expecting?
I think it's right. A little bit less than the is expected, but I think it's 70%. It's okay. So we lose only 30%. But I think now it's a little bit early to make some to place some number, correct number. But I'm very happy because the grapes is very good. It's very healthy, no disease, and ripe maturation, ripe flavors, and I think it's a very good vintage. Anyway,
Fantastic.
despite the COVID.
Joe, I think if the question was how much more grapes we are expecting.
See?
So in a normal year, we produce about 120,000 bottles, which would be 10,000 cases of 12 bottles. And this year we have maybe 20–25% less grapes. So we will finish up with around 100,000 bottles. And we have to bring in, I think, roughly 200, maybe another, let's calculate another 10,000 bottles of finished wine. So we have 10% more of the grapes that have to come in.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if you have some more questions for Roberto into the cellar. If not, I would show you a quick map to do some more Google Earth humor in Joe's direction.
Perfect. Roberto, molti grazie.
Yeah.
Grazie, Roberto.
Thank you. Prego, prego.
See you later, Roberto. See you later.
That was fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Leon, Robert, Roberto, thank you very much.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao,
Thanks,
ciao.
Leon, for setting that up for us.
So yes. So maybe I start quickly with a map. Joe, are you going to share the presentation or shall I share my screen?
Nope, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. There you go.
C'era sta alzata. La riunione di Zoom.
So, quickly, so we are in Tuscany, as Joe already said. The main house where it's warm and cozy is the closest village is Castellina in Chianti. So consider that we have 3 historical villages in Chianti Classico, and these 3 historical villages are called Gaiole, Radda, and Castellina. Okay, and we are in the village of Castellina in Chianti. Then there's more villages which are part of the Chianti Classico area, but historically they are not really part of it. They were added afterwards, mainly for political reasons and because there were some powerful people who saw a big potential in commercializing and selling their wine as Chianti Classico. And this is why over the centuries, the Chianti Classico area got bigger and bigger, okay? So Antinori, for example, the biggest producer in our area, was where they historically are located in San Casciano, was only added later, not from the beginning. Okay, so Castellina and Chianti, where we are, is exactly halfway between the 2 cities, Florence and Siena. And today we're going to try 3 wines from Chianti Classico, from Castellina and Chianti. And afterwards, we're going to try 2 red wines, 2 Super Tuscans from our vineyard in Maremma. So Maremma means coast. Maremma means warmer climate because it's further south and the altitude is not so high. And this is why the wines have a little bit more of a powerful character with round tannins and a softer, richer body. Okay, So this is a little map where you can see Florence in the northern part of Tuscany, Siena in the center. This is where Nittardi is. And in the south, this roughly is the Maremma area. And we are here, close to a village which is called Scanzano. Scanzano is well known for the Morellino di Scanzano. So the DOCG, where the wines are made, is called Morellino di Scanzano. No? Okay. So again, this is a map with all the different appellations we have in Tuscany. The red one here is the Chianti Classico area. Okay, and the green one is the Chianti area. Of course, don't confuse Chianti with Chianti Classico. This is something the people from Chianti Classico are very proud of. Please don't confuse Chianti with Chianti Classico, because to give you an idea about numbers, okay, Chianti Classico, the wines with the black rooster on the bottleneck, is about 30 million bottles, which of course sounds like a big number, but if you consider that we are 400 or 450 producers, it's not that much. So 30 million bottles in Chianti Classico and around 100 million bottles in generic Chianti. Okay, so generic Chianti is more than 3 times as big as Chianti Classico. So a little bit of history about our estate. Nittardi is, as Joe already mentioned shortly in the introduction, a very ancient winery. It started as a winery probably in the 12th century, 900 years ago. It was known as Villa Nectari Dei. Villa Nectari Dei, the nectar of the gods, a Latin way to describe wine, often in religious contexts in the church. So it was called Villa Nectari Dei, and the oldest document we found is from 1183, and there it's mentioned as Villa Nectari Dei. And then it was owned by the church, by Benedict monks who were producing wine at Nittardi. And there's a few documents which today are in a monastery in La Piazza, which is not very far from where we are, which describes the winemaking at the time. And afterwards, in Renaissance time, our winery got quite famous because Michelangelo Buonarroti, the Florentine artist, purchased Nittardi from the church. So Michelangelo is originally from Florence, and he started his career. He comes from a poor background, he comes from a poor family, and he started, however, his career as an artist with the Medici family in Florence. And then there was a fight between him and the Medici family. So this is the reason he went to Rome and started to work for the Pope, for the Vatican. And during this quite successful career as an artist, he earned a lot of money. So he started to be a very, very rich man for the time. And he bought quite a few properties in the city of Florence and in Chianti Classico. So he bought Nittardi in Chianti Classico, and there's different letters between him and his nephew, Leonardo Buonarroti. Leonardo Buonarroti is the son of the brother of Michelangelo. So Michelangelo himself never married, had never children. So he gave all his money and all his properties to the nephew, who was also in charge of taking care of the winemaking at Nittardi. And in the letters, they talk about the wine of Nittardi, and Michelangelo asks Leonardo to send him some wine to the Pope, for whom he was painting the second part of the 16th chapel. So Michelangelo painted in 2 different moments, the 16th chapel. And in the second moment, he bought Nittardi. The exact date was 1549. And this is the letters. In these letters, he talks about the wine of Nittardi and asks Leonardo to send some damigiane. Damigiane are these big glass demijohns, which is about 10 gallons, which are still used today to transport wine, especially bulk wine, which family normally drink, which you have at a table in Italy without much. It's normally not very pretentious wine, the wine in Damigiana. But at the time, it was the only way to transport wine in Italy. So he writes about the Damigiana of Nittardi wine, which are sent from Nittardi to the Vatican, where he and then he writes that he gifted the wine as a divine present to the Pope for whom he was working.
And I also loved the same letter that you write about, that he writes his nephew that he'd much rather a couple casks of wine than any more shirts.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's very funny because these letters are really, because when we talk about history, we only know all the important facts and we know all the glamorous stuff. And in these letters, there's so much daily life. So they are so real. And I find these letters, they are always much more close to us and to our daily lives than what we see in official documents. So it's really interesting, yeah. And also he writes in the letters that's also interesting for the let's say wine geeks between you, that in that period the main grape variety in Tuscany was not Sangiovese, but was much more Trebbiano, which is the same as Uni Blanc in France, and Malvasia Bianca. So in Chianti Classico, there was a lot of white grapes, and Sangiovese was not at all the dominant grape variety. So Sangiovese only came up as the dominant grape variety after Phylloxera. So end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, Sangiovese really started to be the center of all the wine production in Tuscany. So if I have to say what is so special about Nittardi today, I think we try to communicate our history a lot through the history of Nittardi, which for me is very important because I believe that wine is a lot about the history, a lot about the people behind the bottles, and what they made, what they decided to bring into the bottle. So and for us is all this package, we want to communicate it a lot through the labels, because I believe that the label is the first thing that all of us see and that influences us, conscious or subconscious, I don't know, but influences us a lot. So for the first wine my parents started to make in Chianti Classico, which is called Casanuova di Nittardi. We're going to try in a second. Casanuova di Nittardi. And for this first wine, which my parents started to make in '81, every year a different artist paints two paintings. One painting is for the label, and a second painting is for the wrapping paper, for the paper that protects the bottle. And it's every year a different artist. I'm here in a room where we have all different labels from, maybe, can I stop? I know, I have to do that, right?
Si, si.
Okay, so I show you quickly around in the room where I am. So this, for example, was the first label, '81, and this was the first wrapping paper by Bruno Bruni, which is an Italian artist. Here we have, quickly I show you outside, let's see the cat. Luisa, where are you? Luisa, ciao Luisa. She has been at the door the whole time, and she is listening to, I don't know how her English is, so. And a few other famous labels are, for example, 2005, which is here by, this is Yoko Ono, the wife of John Lennon, you all know. Yoko Ono here. Then, for example, Günter Grass, who painted the 2008 label. Günter Grass is a German Nobel Prize winner. And this is wrapping paper by Günter Grass. Then, for example, Igor Mitorai, very important Polish artist who painted the 97 label and wrapping paper, and so on. So I hope when all this will be over, you can come and visit us here at Nittardi and not just via Zoom. Okay.
I think we all agree with you wholeheartedly.
So
should we go ahead and start tasting?
Yes, absolutely.
So did you want to start with the Chianti Classico Casanova or the Belcanto?
I would start with Ad Astra.
The Ad Astra.
I would start with Ad Astra, and then from Ad Astra, I would go to the 3 Chianti Classicos.
See.
So this is my father. I have some more pictures here. So my parents started Nittardi in '81. So like all Chianti Classico was a bit run down. After the Second World War, there was a lot of people who left the countryside and went into the cities. And my parents bought Nittardi in 1981. My father's from Germany and my mom is from Venice. So she studied in Florence and she fell very much in love with the region, with the wines from Chianti Classico. But then she fell in love with my father, so they married, and but she convinced rather quickly to start a winery. She convinced rather quickly my father to start the winery. And now today they're mainly retired. And I am taking all the main decisions, but sometimes they pop up and give their opinions to everything. So these are my parents in the wine cellar, and this is part of our team outside. So we have a lot of people who have been working for a long time with us. I'm very grateful to them. They help me in all the easy and also more difficult decisions every day with a lot of experience. So yes, this is Chianti Classico. These are some pictures of the vineyards. So you see we have a lot of forest around us. So for the people of you who have not been to Chianti Classico is a very different region from most of the wine regions in the world. So forget the monoculture you are used to when you go to Bordeaux or to Burgundy or even to Napa, where you have a winery next to each other. Chianti Classico is very different. We have a lot of hills, a lot of forest. The word Chianti comes from Clanthe in Etruscan, and Clanthe means forest. So there's a lot of forest in our area. And the vineyards are all surrounded by forest. Which makes a very special microclimate, and which makes also that Chianti Classico is not always the same. So it depends really from producer to producer. So you see also us. Right now I'm in the main house, which you can see in the middle of the picture here, and Roberto was somewhere around here in the cellar. And so a lot of forest around the vineyards. Okay, so maybe I can stop the screen and we can start tasting. Yeah, absolutely. Interrompi condivisione. Bye. Okay.
Fantastic. So we will go ahead and start with the
Ad Astra 2000.
The Ad Astra.
I show you the bottle so everybody can see how the real bottle looks like as well. So we start with Maremma. So Maremma, as I said, it's a bit of a warmer climate. And the wine we are trying now is 50% Sangiovese, and then 25 Cabernet Sauvignon and 25 Cabernet Franc. Okay, so the blend changes a little bit every year, but the heart of Ad Astra is always Sangiovese. And about 50% is always Sangiovese, and then there's always a little bit of changing international grape varieties, depending a little bit from vintage to vintage, depending on the climate of the vintage. So Ad Astra is always a year in oak, Sangiovese in 500-liter barrels, so tonneaus, so roughly double the size of a barrique, which obviously gives a little bit less oak to the wine, to the Sangiovese, not to overpower it. And the two Cabernets, Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, they age in barrique, 225 barrels. All French oak, and about 10-15% of the oak is new. So there's always a touch of new oak on this one. Yes. 17 was a super hot vintage all over Europe and in Tuscany especially, which Tuscany is a warm region. Maybe not, I mean, for you, maybe not as warm as Napa, but for sure as warm as Sonoma, which for us is warm. And so it was a bit of the challenge was to have a great balance between not overpowering it and still keeping the freshness, which for us is so important. Hi Brennan. No, so we use okay, cool. And so it's all French. In Ad Astra, it's all French. We use only French oak. In the past means 10-15 years ago, we used also some American oak, which we don't use anymore. And so we have, for the next wine we're going to try, Belcanto, we have also big barrels, which are Botti, 3,000, 3,500 liters, so 1,000 gallons, more or less, barrels, which are also made out of French oak. And to Jack, hello Jack. Jack is in Italy right now, so you have to know that Jack is like half an hour drive from me away. But
I'm very jealous of both of you.
But no, but maybe only Jack. I see that only I can see Jack's question because I think he wrote me in private. So Jack is asking how often we change the barrels. So the barriques we use normally 3 times, 4 times. It depends a little bit on how they evolve. I mean, it's easy to give like a generic answer, but honestly, it's not always the same. So you always have to smell the barrel and understand. Some barrels you have to change more often. Some barrels you have to change a little bit less. And generally speaking, the bigger the barrel, the less you have to change it. So a botte, for example, the 3,500 liter barrel, I can use 15 years without any problem. And then after 15 years, maybe I do a very, very intense cleaning, and then I can use it another 5-6 years without any problems. So Paul is asking in Italian, puoi parlare del nome Ad Astra, complimenti per l'italiano, congratulations for the Italian, Paul. About the name of the wine. So the wine is called Ad Astra, and you can also see a falling star on the label. So Ad Astra comes from the Latin motto. There's a Latin motto, which is also the motto of my family, which is Per asperam ad astra. So to the stars through hard work. So if you want to achieve something great, and if you want to make a great wine, in our case, you have to work really hard. And this is our philosophy. So a lot of work in the vineyards. All vineyards are certified organic, and all wines are certified organic. You will not see this on the American back label, because American bureaucracy is even worse than Italian bureaucracy. I didn't believe that this is possible, but it is possible. And so we decided together with Joe to not go into all this craziness. So you will not see this on the American back label, but you see this is our normal back label, and has organic signs. Yes, okay. So Ad Astra means to the stars. And of course, the motto is Per asperam ad astra. It was just too long. So we decided to call the wine just Ad Astra. Okay, this is our most successful wine. It's also price-wise the most approachable. And I decided to start with this one because it shows, I think, very well our philosophy. So a good wine, a very good wine, always very, very good ratings. 2017 got 93 points by Sackling, and it's always in this 92, 94 points league. And for, I think, a very fair price. Okay. If you don't have any further questions, I would proceed to the next wine. Joe?
Looks good.
Yep.
Let's progress.
Let's progress. So we go now to...
And I apologize to Jack that he has no wines to taste.
No, he has. He buys from me directly. He buys from me directly. So Jack is a friend who came to Italy, and he said, I want to experience Italian lifestyle with my family, and I want to live in Florence. And then Corona came.
His bad luck.
But no. I mean, the summer was nice. We had a nice summer here.
Yes. Trail running, I understand, was very good.
Yeah, he's very strong. He's very strong.
So we're going to move to?
Now we're going to move to Belcanto. So we're going to try the first Chianti Classico. Belcanto is, I think, the most typical and traditional expression of Chianti Classico that we make. So if you look for a really classic expression of Chianti Classico, however, ready to drink now, so not old school that where you need maybe 10 years until the wine is ready, but ready to drink now, Belcanto is the wine. So Belcanto comes from an old vineyard, which is 50 years old. And in this old vineyard, we don't have only Chianti Sangiovese, but we also have other local grape varieties, which is very interesting. And what we basically do is a field blend. So it's not that we blend the grapes after the fermentation or after the aging. The vineyard is just planted so randomly that we have no alternative than to pick everything together. But this gives a good complexity to the wine, and it's very interesting. So 8 grape varieties in total. This is why on the label you can see 8 stones, which represent the 8 different grape varieties. And in the background of the stones show the galestro, which is the schist that we have in our vineyards. We have this very schisty, very slate, a lot of slate in the vineyard, and the local name for it is galestro. So in the background of the stones, you can see the face of Michelangelo. Michelangelo is the historic owner of Nittardi. So to combine the two things a little bit, the history and the terroir of the vineyard. And it's very interesting that you are tasting 2015, that we are tasting today 2015, which is of a vintage which already is 2.5 years and 3 years in the bottle, 2.5 years in the bottle. So I think it's really ready to drink now. And 2015, the Belcanto 2015 also received 3 glasses in Gambero Rosso. The highest award by probably the most important Italian wine guidebook. So the winemaking is a very clean winemaking, no added yeast, only a natural fermentation based only on temperature control, and then a year, half of the wine in botte, in the big barrels, and half of the wine in 500-liter tonneaus.
Casks. The spice and herbal components and even a little light cocoa are really just coming out beautifully.
So this is my perfect lunch wine. For me, this is the wine I enjoy most over lunch because it's always very balanced. Alcohol is not too high. It's not a big wine where you get tired. It's all about the drinkability of the wine. And in Sangiovese, you have all this garrigue, Mediterranean herbs, rosemary. They all come out, all these notes, not especially in older vineyards, not just cherry and strawberry and these classic primary red fruit aromas. Yeah. So,
any questions there?
How are the wines showing in small bottles on the other side of the ocean?
Fantastic. I of course I'm going to say that. Anyone else? We got a couple thumbs up. Should we move to the next wine?
Yes, absolutely. So the next wine we're going to try is Casanuova di Nittardi, the one with the artist label and the artist wrapping paper I mentioned before, 2016. So also already a couple of years in the bottle. So we are on the 17 now, and we will release the 18 in a little bit. So it's a great opportunity because 16 for me is the best vintage. For me, maybe together with 2010, 2016 is the best vintage of the last couple of decades, of the last 20 years. And I think it's a wine which is very ready to drink now. So it's very showy. Of course, if you want something more developed, it's good. It would be good to wait a few years. But right now, I think this is. It's a wine I like to. I will drink this probably tonight after we're finished here. So this is. Let me say. I talked a little bit about the art and the art project. Let me tell you a little bit about the vineyard. So the vineyard is called Vigna d'Oghessa. Vigna d'Oghessa is a single vineyard. Vigna means vineyard, and d'Oghessa is the name of the vineyard. And it's a single vineyard, only Sangiovese, 100% Sangiovese, and it's a high vineyard, about 1,500 feet high, and with a southeast exposure. So it gets a lot of sun in the morning, and then in the afternoon, the sun slowly goes away. And so the very hot afternoon sun, it doesn't get the very hot afternoon sun, but it gets the good sun in the morning, which is not too warm, but make sure that the grapes dry and they're not, they don't have humidity. So we have very rarely problems with illnesses, botrytis, and so on in the Vigna d'Oghessa. 15 months in oak. So a little bit longer than a year, a little bit longer than Ad Astra and Belcanto, in 500-liter barrels. And afterwards, we do the blend of the different oak barrels. This is for all the wines. We do it in concrete. So we have different sized concrete tanks at the winery where we do the final blend of the barrels. And then we always keep the wine 3-4 months in concrete, and then we bottle it.
Tell us a little bit about when you started using amphoras and what you're really liking about them and what they add to the Sangiovese or to the wine in general.
So concrete we have been using for a long time. Last year we started with ceramic. So ceramic is basically very similar to. So amphoras are made out of terracotta. Terracotta they're made locally. There's a big, there's a town which does only terracotta half an hour from here, south of Florence, which is called Impuneta. And all the amphoras which are used in Italy come from this town, basically. And terracotta, the material of amphoras, has a lot of oxygen going through. Because
very porous.
Very porous, thank you. Very porous because it's a porous material, basically. Then if you burn terracotta for a second time, 1000 degrees Celsius for 3 days, so a very hot, very strong procedure, you get ceramic, okay? And we have some ceramic eggs at the winery, which are very neutral. So very, very interesting.
And the idea there is that the eggs and amphora during fermentation circulate themselves, yes?
Yes, yes, exactly. So the advantage is you have oxygen, which always softens the tannins, makes them a little bit richer, and so on. And you don't have any oak. You don't have any oak taste. And the lees circulate because of the roundness. In a natural way, you have a kind of batonnage, exactly. And but the main advantage for me is, especially during fermentation, that you have that you have a lot of oxygen exchanges. And this year, what we're doing this year with the amphoras is that we are keeping the wine on the skins, not for the normal 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but until the idea is to keep them until Christmas. And the advantage of, you can do that only with amphoras and not, let's say, with stainless steel because of the oxygen exchange.
And with the skins?
Yes, for 3 months. So you have to come for Christmas. You have to come for Christmas, Joe, and we will try together.
Okay, Jack, you got a room for me? In my dreams.
Certo, Joe, certo.
Certo, certo. Of course, of course.
Any questions on Amphora, on the Casanuova Chianti Classico 2016? If not, we'll go ahead and move forward to the Riserva.
Yes.
Un momento, Leon is Jack. For the concrete, that was traditional? Is it moving back towards a traditional way of holding wine?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. So concrete has always been used in Italy. I mean, of course, since we have concrete, it has been used. So not at Michelangelo's times. But in the 50s and 60s and 70s, concrete was very much used because it keeps the temperature very good. Because it's a thick material, and in difference to stainless steel, it keeps the temperature very good. What has been done then for a while is that the concrete was lined inside with fiberglass. And if you line it with fiberglass, of course, there's no oxygen, there's no porosity. You would lose all the porosity. But it's easier to clean because fiberglass you can really just clean with water, while concrete, and you don't have the risks that bacteria go into the concrete. So we have unlined concrete at Nittardi, and having unlined concrete, you have to be a bit more careful with cleaning, but you have the porosity, which is very similar porosity which you have with amphoras or with ceramic and so on. Yes. Okay.
Great, thank you. Yes.
So I will try now Riserva 2016. Okay, so we try the same vintage. It's very interesting now to try the same vintage of the two wines next to each other. So the Casanuova we just tried about 15 months in oak and then a few months in concrete. Riserva we are trying now 2 years in oak and then again a few months in concrete and then a different vineyard. So Casanuova, southeast exposure. It's a warm vineyard, but not a hot vineyard. Riserva, full south exposure, so it gets sun the whole day, and this makes that the wine is a little richer has a bit softer tannins and so on. And also, there's a little bit more on new oak on the Riserva. So the Casanuova has about 10% of new oak, while the Riserva has 25% of new oak. Hmm. 16 is I think it's very nice. 16 for me, it's one of the best Reservas. Hi, Glishan. Yeah, the 2010 is very good. Okay, you are right. 2010 is very difficult to top. But for me, after 2010, the best is 2016. And a lot of big awards for the 16 as well. 3 glasses in Gambo Rosso, 93 points Parker, 94 points by Suckling. So quite a few awards.
Yeah, I feel like the 16 has a little bit more streamlined, like sharp acidity, where the 10, maybe 10 when we tried it, it was 6-7 years after, so it came together much better. Right now, this you could tell this is going to age well because of the acid that this has.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's 16 is a bit fresher as a vintage compared to 16. No, 16 is fresher than 2010. 2010 was a bit richer as a vintage, and but of course, if trying them now one next to each other, 5 years of difference in the bottle makes a big difference. Yeah. Okay.
A little side note that also kind of I think I always get in the Riserva is that Nittardi is also very famous for not only art, not only the property and obviously the wine, but also a little product from some trees out back, some beautiful olive oil. Yeah.
Yeah. We have we have about 2,000 olive trees, and which sounds like a lot, but with one olive tree, you produce about 1 bottle of olive oil. And during the lockdown, I pruned maybe 200 trees. Consider that to prune 1 tree, you need half an hour, 40 minutes, something like this. So while there was not that much to do, all the people in the office, we all pruned the olive trees this winter, spring. And it's a lot of work to, what I'm trying to say is it's a lot of work to produce olive oil, but it's something very satisfying.
And it is amazing olive oil. That is definitely something I want to be bringing more in to share, for sure. Yeah. But I always, for whatever reason, I always get a little bit of that bright, rich pepperiness on the Riserva that very much reminds me of the olive oil.
Yeah, that's maybe that's I mean, it's a bit difficult to say, but maybe it's really something that like
you just figured that your mom and dad just dumped the bottle into the Riserva barrel. Add to the viscosity.
So we finish with the Nectari Dei, which is our top wine from Maremma. So this is also very interesting. We're going to try 2014. So this wine has already 1, 2, 3 years in the bottle. So a little bit of time in the bottle. Nectari Dei comes from the same vineyard as Ad Astra. You see the labels also rather similar. Ad Astra, the heart is always Sangiovese. Nectari Dei, the heart is always Cabernet Sauvignon. So around 50% is always Cabernet Sauvignon. Then we have Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot in Maremma is very, very interesting. I think it's really something like the secret weapon of Maremma. And if it would be for me, I think we should only talk about Petit Verdot when we talk about Maremma. But, well, there's also other people involved in Maremma. But the Petit Verdot always gives nearly floral. So forget all the things you always hear about Petit Verdot, about edgy and big and tannins and so on. Petit Verdot in Maremma is really floral. It gives really, really elegance to the wine, I think. And it gives some spiciness too, but it gives a lot, for me, a lot of, if I try it pure from the barrel, it always gives very nice floral notes. And so the 14 blend is Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, a little bit of Merlot.
So this is the 2014 vintage, and I see that on the tech sheet that we received, it says 5% secret grape varieties.
So yes, I don't know.
They're secret.
I mean, you're recording this and putting this on YouTube, right? I don't know if
yes,
it's such a great idea.
We'll just leave it at that.
No, so Italy, very bureaucratic country, okay, and so we have two grape varieties which are not allowed according to the appellation, to the DOC Maremma Toscana appellation. But we believe they're very interesting, and they produce very great grapes and then very great wine. And so we planted them, one in '99 and the second one in the middle of the 2000s. And both grape varieties go very, very well in warmer climate like Maremma is, and considering global warming, which and less water we are having in Maremma, I think these are two grape varieties which should be allowed, but for now are not allowed because they're very resistant to heat, and they grow very well also with very little water. However, the bureaucratic part of Italy doesn't agree with me. So for now, we can only write secret grape varieties, and we're not allowed to.
And you have 5% Syrah in this as well?
Yes. The 14 has a little bit of Syrah. Yes. Exactly. So we have a little. So Maremma for us, Maremma for us has always been since the beginning a little bit the possibility to experiment a little bit. So Chianti Classico, a lot of tradition, and a lot of classic grape varieties, so Sangiovese basically. And so when we started in Maremma, we started from the beginning to experiment with the different grape varieties. So we have quite a few plots of small plots of different grape varieties like Syrah, like the two grape varieties I'm not allowed to talk about, and so on. So Kishan is asking about the Petit Verdot and the ripeness. Yes, that's completely right what you're writing. I think everybody can see the question, because the reason why it has a bad reputation is due to lack of ripening in most regions. Yes, and especially if you think of Bordeaux, where they get this very wet autumns. We have in Maremma it's different, because Maremma we have half the rainfall they have in Bordeaux, annual rainfall. We have around 500 millimeters, which is mainly concentrated in winter, and in Bordeaux they have around 1,000 millimeters, so double the rainfall. And then they have often very unstable climate in fall. And Petit Verdot is the last grape variety we pick. We always pick it, we're picking it now this week. We picked a little bit last week. Over the weekend we had some rain, so we didn't pick over the weekend. But we picked some today. So it's really the last grape variety we always pick. And in Italy, we don't talk about bricks. In Italy, we talk about Babbo, but the Petit Verdot has always 13.5%, 14% of alcohol at the end, to give you a rough idea. So we can really pick it very, very ripe, exactly. And in that case, with the ripeness, it loses this edgy belt pepper notes that Petit Verdot is so well known for. Okay.
Fantastic. I have to admit, Nectari Dei is my daily wine. Last thing I do before going to bed every night. We open up one bottle, just one, in my dreams. But no, I just absolutely love that wine. We had it for Easter. The last Easter I wasn't in Italy, visiting the Brunettes, but we broke open a bottle with with some grilled lamb, and it was just outstanding.
You were supposed to come, right? And you didn't come.
See. We're not. That's the conversation we don't talk about.
Okay.
Leo. But maybe next year, as the
Yes,
Cubs always said.
Come on.
Come
on.
All right. At this point,
Okay.
I am going to say thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and stop recording here.